Hello, and welcome back for another battle report. We've made it to battle report number 10. How exciting, we've made it to double figures. And this time round we are back for the Masters Open with my round 3 game. So I've been drawn against Warriors of the Dark Gods, which means that my Oriflamme Banner still has zero application. I can't use it against this army because they're essentially immune to fear, and they don't get Rally Around the Flag because they don't have a BSB. Points well spent. Okay, so let's take a look at the lists. So if you've watched the previous 2 battle reports, you'll know what's in my list, and if you don't, give it a quick pause, or it'll be in the comments below. And my opponent's list. So he's got a Sorcerer with Veil Walker on a Battle Shrine. He's a Wizard Master of Evocation. He's wearing Plate Armor. He's got the Magical Heirloom, and he's the Lord of the Damned to give rerolls for random movement for Wretched ones and the big monster ones. I think they're Forsaken ones? Yes, Forsaken ones. For his general, he's got a Chosen Lord on a War Dais with a shield, Hellforged armor, hand weapon enchanted with the Burning Portent. Remember flaming attacks. It's going to be very important later on. The Talisman of Shielding for a 5-up Aegis, and the Favour of Pride, which gives him minimized discipline tests? Yeah, just that. In his core, he's got 19 warriors with full command and the Banner of the Relentless Company. 10 warriors with Lust to give them the ability to flee with Feigned Flight, and they've got a champion. 8 Warhounds, 6 Wretched Ones, 5 Warrior Knights with Lances, a champion, and the Favour of Pride. 2 lots of 5 Flayers with Skinning Lashes, and for his detachment he's taken 2 Feldrak Elders with paired weapons. So, big scary characters, a couple of big scary monsters, Wretched Ones that I potentially could get stuck on, and everything else is in the realm of things that I can deal with, as long as I'm sensible. So his Evocation Master got the Hereditary because he's got the Heirloom, and then he picked Spectral Blades, Whispers of the Veil, Hasten the Hour, and Touch of the Reaper. So 2 snipes and 2 combat buffs or debuffs. And then my Wizard King rolled Pyromancy, so he's got Fireball this round, which is good against Wretched Ones with their Fortitude save. My Druidess has taken Healing Waters and Summer's Growth, and my Divination Master has got Know Thine Enemy, Fate's Judgment, Scrying, and Unerring Strike. So for this game we're playing Frontline Clash and Breakthrough, which is great for me because I'm a lot quicker than he is, and I think I've got more scoring units. Certainly my scoring units are faster anyway. I've deployed using the hill as a basis, and with my Stalker standard on the Grail Knights I don't need to worry about those ruins in the centre. I've got my Aspirants on the left, then my Yeomen have vanguarded forwards, then the Grail Knights with the BSB, my Banner of the Last Charge unit with their Druidess Damsel, my General on his Hippogriff, my Questing Knights with their Divination Master on a Unicorn, Pegasus Knights vanguarded up in front of them, and the last unit of Realm Knights on the right. And then down at the bottom with the Warriors deployment, he's got his 5 Pride Knights with a Feldrak Elder. The Flayers have vanguarded 6 forward there, then Wretched Ones, his Battle Shrine with the Lust Warriors. 8 Warhounds in front of his Burning Portent Lord with the 19 Warriors. Another Feldrak Elder and the other unit of Flayers. Those numbers attached to my units up at the top there were magic resistance, just as a note to remind my opponent for when he gets to his magic phases. So we move on to turn 1 for the Warriors. This screenshot's a little iffy, I was slightly scrolled in, so it's not a full view of the pitch, or of the field rather. But he just moves his Wretched Ones up in towards the dangerous terrain. I think he takes a couple of wounds from that. Not enough to kill any of them, but certainly taken some damage already. The Flayers up on the left move out of line of sight of the Aspirants, followed by the Warrior Knights and the Feldrak Elder, and then the other side is a lot more cautious with my units staring down at him, but he shuffles forward a little bit. The Warhounds and the Burning Portent Lord with his warriors don't move at all, they stick on that wall where they are. Nothing happens in magic, he hasn't got any shooting and there's no combat, so we go on to Equitain turn 1. So, with where his Warhounds are, he's not going to be able to... and with Warhounds, they don't have light troops, so they can't move and they don't have swift reform or anything. So they're basically stuck where they are, and the warriors can't move past them without moving entirely round them. So I move the Pegasus Knights up to block the Warhounds from going anywhere, and that in turn blocks the Warhounds behind them. So with that, I move the Hippogriff very aggressively up into the flank of his Battle Shrine. Of course, the Battle Shrine causes fear, so that is going to be increasing the Lord's charge range against them. I use the Yeoman in the ruins there to block the Wretched Ones from going anywhere particularly scary. Certainly it makes them a little bit more difficult to turn first, so they'll have to charge through me if they want to go anywhere. I turn the Aspirants to face the units on the left. The Grails come down off the hill to face out towards the left as well. And Banner of the Last Charge unit follows up behind the Hippogriff. And the Questing Knights look off towards where the Feldrak Elder is to stop him from moving up behind my Hippogriff. We go through to Magic. I don't get anything particularly exciting off. I try and get Fireball off on the Flayers on the left, but he dispels that. And I fail to cast Unerring Strike, or it's dispelled. Either way, I don't get the big spell off. I tried to get it on the Feldrak Elder on the right, but I didn't manage it. So it was at this point that I noticed that the overrun on the Wretched Ones, they use their full random movement, and it's only 10 inches or so, 10-11 inches from the front of the Yeoman into my Grail Knights there. So if he chooses to overrun, there's a very good chance that he's just going to move straight into my Grail Knights and then pin them there, and then I'm not going to be able to move them away, so I'll have thrown my BSB and Grail Knights into a combat that they can't win again. But we'll see what he does. So we move on to Warriors turn 2. Predictably, the Wretched Ones charge into the Yeoman. He moves his Flayers around my Aspirants, moves up with the Feldrak Elder and the Pride Knights on the left. He uses the Flayers on the right to chaff my Questing Knights from getting to the Feldrak Elder, and he uses the Banner of the Relentless Company to move his Burning Portent Lord out of his warrior unit and as far as possible up to the flank of my Banner of the Last Charge unit. He also moves up a little bit with the Battle Shrine, I presume to get range on spells. I don't think the Snipes in Evocation have particularly fantastic range, so that may have been the reason for that. And of course the Warhounds and the Warriors at the bottom there can't go anywhere with the Pegasus Knights sitting there. So we go through to Magic. I forget what he cast. I think it may have been Hellfire on the Banner of the Last Charge unit. He kills one of them, but he cast it with a miscast, which kills 6 warriors in that unit. And he passes his panic, thankfully, but that's pretty huge for me. That's basically decimated that unit, and that makes that a lot less worrying to deal with for me. In combat, I believe the Yeomen do a couple more wounds to them. I think they strike more or less simultaneously, and then I've only got to get through toughness 4 and a 5 up fortitude, and with 5 attacks from the horses, 5 attacks from the guys, a couple manage to go through, and I do a couple more wounds to the Wretched Ones, but of course they then explode. So we go through to my turn 2. He kills the Yeoman, as I mentioned, but he decides not to overrun. I suppose at that point he would be taking 10 more dangerous terrain tests, failing on 1s and 2s. So he sticks where he is, and I go for a charge with the Grail Knights and the Banner of the Last Charge through into the Wretched Ones. My Damsel there has taken 2 wounds, I believe, in which case she may have taken a wound from one of the Snipes in Magic last turn, and then she takes another one on the dangerous terrain going in here. My Hippogriff also attempts a charge against the Battle Shrine, and you can see there that he's fled. He didn't roll particularly high on the flee distance there. I think it was only 4 or 5 inches or so, so it was well within where I could have caught them, but unfortunately I don't roll high enough, so the Hippogriff flutters forward a couple of inches and then stops there. The Realm Knights up on the top right also tried to charge the Flayers. I was hoping that... well, it was only like a 6-inch charge or so. I don't make it, unfortunately, so I stumble forward a couple of inches on a failed charge. I had been hoping to charge into the side of the Flayers, kill them or break them, and then overrun into the side of the Feldrak Elder, which would have been fantastic, because then I would have pinned him for the following round of combat. He wouldn't have been able to charge on his turn, then I'd been able to counter with my Questing Knights there. But unfortunately I failed that charge. So we go to Magic. Oh, sorry, post moves first. I moved the Questing Knights back as I failed with the Realm Knights on the right. So just to make it a little bit further for the Feldrak and the Chosen Lord. There's not an awful lot more I can do there besides marching past them, which gives them my flank, so I decided to give them my front instead. The Aspirants move past the Feldrak and the Warrior Knights, just heading for the objective instead of trying to fight them or anything like that. And the Pegasus Knights stay exactly where they are because they're doing a very useful job for me at the moment. We go through to Magic. I get a little bit of a heal on my Damsel off. I think I cast Scrying or Know Thine Enemy on my Questing Knights. And then we go through to combat. So between the Grail Knights and the impact hits of the Realm Knights, I managed to do enough wounds to completely blow through the Wretched ones, which is very useful. I then try to overrun with both units, but I don't roll different enough for them to get far enough away and break the 1-inch bubble between them. So just the Knights overrun. I take a couple more wounds going through the Dangerous with the Realm Knights, but I'm very pleased to have dealt with the Wretched ones. I had been worried that I would get stuck on them for a very long time. And yes, I got Scrying and the Guiding Light attribute on the Questing Knights over the top there. We go to Warriors turn 3. So he declares a whole host of charges here. You'll notice that the Aspirants have gone from on the left through to the bottom there. They were charged initially by the Warrior Knights on the left, which I fled from through the ruins. They took a couple of wounds there, and then were charged again by the Flayers up at the top, so they fled towards the Battle Shrine. The Feldrak Elder on the left has made a 10-inch Swift Stride charge into the... or declared her charge into the side of the Grail Knights needing a 10. And then the Portent Lord and the other Feldrak Elder have charged into the front of my Questing Knights. Thankfully, though, both the Portent Lord and the Feldrak Elder on the left fail their charges, with just one Feldrak making it into my Questing Knights. He then bails his Battle Shrine out of the 4 remaining warriors, and they sit there next to my fleeing Aspirants, and he moves his Flayers up over from the Impassable on the right to behind my Hippogriff, so they're out of line of sight of everything, but they're well within range ready to chaff things up next turn. Nothing of note happens in Magic, so we go through to post-combat. So that Feldrak Elder goes into the front of my Questing Knights, rolls tremendously poorly, and then I roll really well on my saves as well, so I only lose the one Questing Knight. Between distracting and my decent armor save and a 5+ Aegis, he's able to only do the 1 wound to me. He's not steadfast. I win combat by a rank, a couple of wounds, and a banner, and he flees. And then with all of the units in between where in his flee path, he flees right out to the other end of the board, takes another couple of wounds from going through my Pegasus Knights and the Hippogriff, leaves himself on 1 wound and right up against the table edge. Also, where he passed through the Warhounds and them being insignificant and outside of General's range, they fail their panic and then flee off the board. We worked it out as being the Feldrak finishes his flee move, and then the dogs panic through, so they would be the ones to fall off the table. But as it's my turn coming up next, it doesn't matter which is which, because I just get to charge the other unit off this turn. And then the Questing Knights fail to catch the Feldrak Elder, but they do roll high enough to charge into the front of the Burning Portent Lord. So we go on to Kingdom of Equitain turn 3. This is post charges and moves. So I think I make a pretty big mistake here. In the previous picture, you can see that both the Pegasus Knights and the General can see the Feldrak Elder that's fleeing. I only need to declare a charge against him to cause him to flee again, which then pushes him off the table and gets me all the points for him. What I should have done is simply declare a charge with the Pegasus Knights to cause them to flee, and then not bother to redirect, and then they can fail forward a couple of inches and then sit in front of the Warrior Knights again. And that means that they're busy chaffing that unit again, and it leaves my Lord free to do as he pleases this turn, whether it's turn around and deal with the Portent Lord behind him, continue chasing after the Battle Shrine, or maybe move over to the other flank to start attacking the Feldrak Elder and deal with his scoring. But instead I declared the charge with the Hippogriff, which was just after me. So now he's failing his charge in there, and then I decided to redirect into the Warriors, which just makes that bad mistake worse. So I decided to go in with the Pegasus Knights as well to try and help with the Lord, but I mean, they're going to be steadfast, they've got parry, they're distracting because they're on a wall. That's not a fight that I'm going to win. I have no idea why I bothered to do that. It's just causing me problems more than anything else. Everything else though, I moved the Realm Knights on the right down towards his deployment zone to start getting into his into the objective. The Grail Knights turn around to face the Portent Lord, the Flayers, and the Warrior block that my General's now engaged with. I move the Banner of the Last Charge unit round, facing towards the Battle Shrine, and they can also, I think, just about see that last rank of warriors there. Though if he loses that last warrior, I'm going to be out of line of sight very soon. So, but with the other units in the way, the warriors and the aspirants, there wasn't really much space to be doing anything else, and I needed to be moving away from the Feldrak Elder up at the top. I didn't want to give him a particularly easy charge into my rear. Those two remaining aspirants rally, and then because they're exactly an inch away from those warriors, they can only point either up, down, left, or right. And I figured that pointing up towards the flares in the centre of the board was going to be the most useful one for me. I had ignored those 4 warriors with my Grail Knight move. I figured that if they do the charge into my side, between my combat res and attacks, I'll be able to kill enough and then win combat and break them. So we go through to post-combat. The warriors really go to town on my poor Pegasus Knights. I roll poorly for their saves and then take a whole load of spiked shield hits back. I lose 2 of them, so I've just got the champion left. I kill a good couple of the warriors, but not nearly enough to have won combat, so we sit there for another turn. The Burning Portent Lord issues a challenge. No, I declare a challenge with my unit champion in the Questing Knights, which the Portent Lord then has to accept. So the Lord then kills my champion, and we go to Warriors turn 4. So he charges into the side of my Grail bus with his 4 warriors there. With where the aspirants are, there's only 1 Grail Knight in combat with them, so I'll just be relying on my combat res there. And he charges the Flayers into the rear of my Pegasus Knight. Just brings in a charge and 2 for charging in the rear for his combat resolution, to try and help break my Lord if the Pegasus Knight stays alive. And the Battle Shrine moves out of line of sight of my Banner of the Last Charge unit, and the Feldrak uses its march to move to get nice and close to the action. In Magic, I foolishly let off Spectral Blades. Actually, I think this was the game that I failed to dispel it. I put a lot of dice into it, but not enough to be certain that it would go off, and then I rolled low. So Spectral Blades with Lethal Strike goes off on the combat with the Hippogriff, which is very, very bad for him. He's going to be taking an awful lot of attacks with potentially no armor saves there. We go to post-combat. I lose a Grail Knight from the attacks on the warriors in the flank, and then don't break the warriors, so I make my combat reform to face them, so I'm at least not giving away my flank this turn. The Pegasus Knight in combat with the warriors dies. My Lord takes another wound, but holds, so that combat continues for next turn, and the Flayers face off towards the right for where my Realm Knights are coming in. You'll notice in the Questing Knight combat that my Unicorn Damsel has taken a wound. That's because she's now in a challenge with the Burning Portent Lord, with his Strength 5, AP 10 attacks with multiple wounds D3. However, she's got a Dragonfire gem, and he's doing flaming attacks. So, regardless of how scary his attacks are, I then get a 2+ Aegis against them. And with my Resilience 4 for being on a Unicorn, he just can't put enough wounds on me to get through that 2+ Aegis. So the wound that she's taken there is actually from the War Dyers instead. So I'm fairly happy that she'll be able to hold there for at least long enough for some help to arrive for her, hopefully. And we go through to Equitaine turn 4. So the 2 remaining aspirants in the middle of the board next to the warriors charge into the flank of the remaining 4. I'm hoping that some higher strength attacks will be able to deal with them so that I can turn around and face that elder that's bearing down on my left. I'm also conscious of giving any flank or rear charges away with my Banner of the Last Charge unit, so they move up nice and close to where the Hippogriff is taking on the warriors. I'm hoping that the Hippogriff will... Well, he's not going to die this turn because he hasn't used his Black Knight's Tabard. So he should survive this turn, ready for me to charge the warriors in the rear. And my Realm Knights on the right move up nice and close so that they're in a position that they can support that combat as well. I get scrying off on the combat in the top right with the Unicorn Damsel. Besides that, nothing else particularly useful goes off. I haven't grown any Knights back or anything like that. And so post-combat, I take another wound from the warriors in combat there. And I think that was the point where I used my Black Knight's Tabard, actually. So he's still in combat there, but he is on his one last remaining wound. And he's going to need help very, very soon. The 2 aspirants who charge into the side of the warriors both die. I lose another Grail Knight to the warriors, and they stick in combat again. So, really spectacular performance from the Grail Knights there, unfortunately for me. The Unicorn Damsel continues to fight off the Burning Portent Lord, though, so she's earning her points. And we go to Warriors turn 5. So post charges, he's charged his Feldrak Elder into the side of my Grail Knights there, which means that I'm now engaged on 2 fronts, so I can't do any combat reforms to face him. He's currently got a large flank because the gigantic models have a rank with 1 model. Again, he casts the boosted Spectral Blades on the Warriors combat with my General, and I fail to dispel it again, which means he's got Lethal Strike again, and I've only got the 1 wound left. So we go to post-combat. Yeah. So, with his Spectral Blades, he only needs to do the 1 wound to my Hippogriff General there. He puts the wound through, which kills me. And then, because I've had a unit within 6 of the Banner of the Last Charge unit die, I then had to take a panic check outside of Discipline rerolls from my BSB. Of course, the General's dead, so it's on Discipline 8. I fail it, and then I flee off the board. So I lose 700 points for the General, plus the 200 points for him being the General, plus the 285 for the Damsel, and the 630 for the Banner of the Last Charge unit. And it's a scoring unit, which means I've lost the secondary objective on that as well. So just a huge, huge swing there. I mean, my opponent conducted his magic very well to make sure that he got Spectral Blades off there. I got unlucky not dispelling it, but I don't think I put enough dice into... If I remember correctly, I didn't put enough dice into it because I was worried about other spells as well, but really I should have been... That was the spell to dispel, and I failed to do so, and it really, really cost me. So I go through to the Grail combat as well. I think I kill one of the warriors there. Yeah, the champion dies in a duel with either my champion or the BSB. The Grails do actually win combat between static combat res, but both the Feldrak and the Warriors hold. And we go to my turn 5. Oh, and the Equitaine Damsel, the Unicorn Damsel, continues to fight off the Burning Portent Lords. That's 600 points of combat character being held off by my very much not combat mage there, which was a source of rather great amusement for both me and my opponent. The Realm Knights in the bottom right just shimmy out of the way of being charged by the Warriors. They need to stay there and not get distracted by anything to make sure that I'm at least drawing the objective. I managed to get no thine enemy off on the Damsel's unit up in the top right there, but I did cause a miscast which killed a couple of Grail Knights, which means I've no longer got as much combat res. I don't have a second rank, for example. I should say that I'm consistently beating the Portent Lord in combat there, but because he gets rerolls on break tests and he's rolling minimised break tests as well, he's just not going anywhere. He's having to test on 7s and 8s every time, and that's just not going to break him with rerolls and minimised. I lose a couple more Grail Knights in the combat with the Feldrak Elder, but they continue to hold. We go to turn 6 for the Warriors. The Flayers continue to chaff my Realm Knights in the bottom right. The Battle Shrine and the Flayers move away from everything else, and the Warriors move up to threaten my Realm Knights as well, just in case. This time I managed to dispel Spectral Blades on the combat, on the Grail Knight combat. We go through to the melee phase. I lose the remainder of the Grail Knights, so I'm no longer steadfast. I don't have a banner as my for combat resolution anymore, and the BSB is run down by the Feldrak Elder, unfortunately, so I've lost all the points there. And I believe, finally, the War Dice does 2 more wounds. Note it was the War Dice and not the Lord. Does the final 2 wounds to my Damsel in the Questing Knight unit as well, so she dies as well. But the Questing Knights managed to hold. So, that's the end of the game. We managed to draw the objective with 1 scoring units each, but yeah, there we go. So the BSB's run down, the Damsel dies, and we draw the objective. So with a drawn objective and with me losing so many points, it's a 16-4 for the Warriors. So there was a big swing in the middle there where my Hippogriff, I think I was in a really good position where I'd managed to pin the Warriors and the Chosen Lord down in position, forcing the Portent Lord to go out by himself, where he got stuck in combat in a duel that he had to spend an awful lot of time fighting through to win. I broke the Wretched Ones in the centre. One of the Feldrak Elders was out of the game for a good few turns, so I was in a really good position, and then I decided to charge both the Pegasus and my General into a combat that they just weren't going to win and were going to get outground on, and then I failed to dispel the spells that was going to swing that combat massively for my opponent. So big mistakes for me, throwing those points away and throwing away my advantage there, because it meant that the Banner of the Last Charge unit there was in a position to fail a panic check off the board, and the Grail Knights just got caught in a combat that they did roll poorly through, but I could have done much better to focus my units to take out those Warriors, or just position myself better. And credit to my opponent, he really turned it around towards the end game. With that mistake from me, he just really cleaned me up. Caught all the units in the right places, cast the right spells, just took me apart really, and really switched the game around. So it was a really interesting game. I was a bit disappointed for it to turn around like that, but I think there are lessons learned, especially with the Spectral Blades and having to worry about them, particularly when you're playing Equitain. So thank you very much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.